is an associate fellow of the National Postgraduate Medical College. Dr. Mark is a distinguished scholar, researcher, and mentor serving in various capacities, including Senior Research Fellow and Director/Dean of the Afromed Academy of Medical Research, ICT, and Innovation, Zambia. He is the editor-in-chief. He's the editor-in-chief of the Frontline Professionals Journal and associate fellow and reviewer of Science Publishing Group, visiting adjunct senior consultant at Somaka's Medical Center, Ghana. He is an academic giant and thoroughbred mentor. He has supervised and continues to inspire postgraduates in Nigeria and master's students across Nigeria and Africa. His dedication to health planning, research, ethics, and community medicine has left indelible marks on the practice of medicine and beyond. He is currently the Deputy Director of Health Planning, Research, and Statistics in the Akwa Ibom State Ministry of Health, UYO, and a consultant par excellence. Together for this gentleman, as he has controlled now. You're welcome, sir. We are glad to have you at this Nigeria 2026 UYO experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate. Thank you, the leadership of the SINS Nigeria 2026. Thank you, the on-site participants and the online participants too. Let us get the ball rolling. I hope you are set for today's session. All right. Go back to the first one. Okay, today we are going to consider first slide. Fireside chats with a research innovator. Topic is exploring innovation, leadership, and impact in modern research. The topic we are going to consider this morning. Next. So we tend to inspire emerging researchers, you all know, and then share our practical research experiences, and then discuss innovation strategies, then explore future research opportunities that we have. Those are the specific objectives of this session. So if you all know what a fireside chat is all about, it is expected that at the end of this program, this lecture or this interactive session, participants will be able to understand the role of innovation in achieving operational goals, also identify some opportunities to apply this innovative thinking in our work while developing a practical strategies that will support the change that we want. So a fireside chat is an interaction between me and my participants. We have to share experience, as I mentioned earlier, share insights and practical solutions on a specific topic I mentioned earlier. So that's what we are going to do. So who is a research innovator? All of us are research innovators. We are problem solver. We are critical thinker. Also, we are creative investigator. So when you mention a research innovator, we are evidence-driven leaders, and also we are change agents. Those are the characteristics of research innovator that we are. So we can solve problems, we can think critically over the problems, and then we can also provide solutions to it while having a creative mindset, and then also drive by evidence and data, because data is life, and also bring out the change that we want since we are change agents. Those are the characteristics that research innovator that we are. So research, we all know, can improve healthcare, it can impact society, but also help in informing policies. We all know the policies that we have in our states. So research can also inform policies. If research is conducted properly, it can inform policies, can also have an end to community grievances while developing community. Can also have an impact on economic growth. These are how research can be used to impact society. Economic growth is very important, because if the research inform policies, most of the policies that we have, we can also link that to an economic growth. of a society. These are the characteristics of research, how research can impact society. So joining into research, I would just set myself as an example, academic background. All of us, as I mentioned, that we are creative thinkers, we are innovators. I all started some years ago when I was doing my residency program, just through a mentor actually brought me into the program. So I have some thorough interaction with the mentor who actually pulled me through a series of residency program for over 8 years. So, and then into some publications, into some lectures online, and then also, yeah, I am. So that's at the background I set myself. So what actually motivated me to go into research is the passion. If you have a passion for something, you can actually give your best to it. So the early experiences actually matter because early start in life is a developmental milestone. So if you start early, probably you can achieve some milestones probably when you are advanced in that particular area of the. So there, without this, I have some lessons to learn from my successes, from my failures, so they're all there. So all the same, what actually grants me these giant steps are what I will share in the next slide. So these are the things, these are the characters that almost give me that standing, curiosity. What actually give you that standing is curiosity. You have to be curious about what you want to do. They have to be persistent because I mentioned that we have challenges. Personally, I have challenges when I started early. So, but persistence and perseverance also give me that giant. So, adaptability, you have to adapt to the environment that you are, adapt to the scenario that you are, and then collaborate with your colleagues. No one knows it all. So, I will say. So you have to collaborate with your colleagues, collaborate with people that are like mind, people that can actually ginger you up to do more. Because your present level may not actually be the end. So you have to collaborate with others, people that have the same thinking capacity like you, then have a vision. Have a vision. Where do you want to go after that? So those are the characters that actually keep me going. So if you can able to have those characteristics, then you have to create a problem. Create a problem means here you identify the problem the community have. If you notice that the community have a problem, probably cholera or diarrhea, you can create a problem statement on that. So look at the community need assessment, very important. Look at the community that we are, look at the need assessment. What this community actually wants. What do they actually want? That is community need assessment. Check your community. You can create your research topic based on the needs of a community. Then also based on the clinical scenario, most of us are doctors, most of us are working in the hospital. So look at the environment, the clinical environment you are. Clinical observation matters a lot. If you want to identify research problem, look at the clinical observation in your environment, then you can search literature. Literature gaps are very important. Pay attention to where they have recommendations. Recommendations. You can actually enter you to have your research topic and then move on with your research. So literature gaps are very important. Then policy challenges. Like in the Ministry of Health, we have a policy brief probably every quarter of the year we have a policy brief where we talk to stakeholders about things of government. You can also have some research problems, yeah, being emanated from there, from policy challenges, policy brief. Then look at the emerging trends, what we have in society nowadays, the issue of COVID-19 that just came, yeah, some years back. So you can create something, monkeypox, other things that actually ginger you to have a research problem created so you can do your research. So there are a few tips that can actually help you in the planning cycle. What is your interest? Curiosity. You mentioned it earlier. What is actually your interest? What do you want to achieve? Then you select your right topic. Selecting your right topic, I will mention to you as we proceed. There are criteria for you to select your right topic using the framework and also using the technicalities in selecting the topic. So you have to find your right supervisor. It's very important. Your right mentor, someone that can actually hold your shoulder, hold your hand while moving down the trend. So you look for a way and develop your feasible plan. Make it simple and achievable. Your plan has to be very simple so that you can also follow through. This is where the Gantt chart actually comes in. Then you develop your proposal that have a timeline and stick to it. If you have a Gantt chart, then your proposal to have that timeline, then ensure that you stick to the timeline of achieving, avoid some distractions and that may come along the way because all the road is not a straight way. So you must avoid some distractions and focus on the already set plan that you have. Then ask questions from the willing colleagues. You must ask questions from a colleague that is willing to show you because you may not know it all. Since you are just starting the process, ask questions from a colleague that are willing to actually guide and direct you. Don't put up to the direction someone's work. Plagiarism is a thief in research. So apply some principles and responsibility of a good researcher, being credible, being parent, being innovative. These are the characteristics that you actually do. So choosing your research topic is very important. What comes to mind when you choose your research topic is conceptualization. Conceptualization is a process where you have to sit down and think deeply about what you have, the idea you have, then turn that idea into a research topic. So conceptualization is very important for choosing your research topic. It all begins with the general interest, the interest that you have. Then you will narrow down your general interest into a specific problems, then into a researchable topic. It's very important. For example, if you have a general interest that has to do with adolescent health, for example, that is a broad general interest. You can step it down to a specific problem. For example, the sexual health challenges that you may have probably among in-school adolescents. Then you can actually coin a researchable topic from there. For example, determinant of contraceptive use among in-school adolescents in a particular community. This is how you can actually choose a topic from the broad knowledge to the specific problem, then to your research topic. There are few sources you can actually leverage on while choosing your research topic. Then look at this picture. I mentioned earlier, must search the literature. Literature gap is very important. Look at what was done previously, and then look at areas that has to do with recommendation. That's where you can actually identify some gaps when doing literature review. Then also you can have issues with practice, observed practices. So professional experiences of people matters a lot. So you can choose your research topic based on the academic discussion. For example, this lecture like this, you can also help you to choose your topic, your research topic. So you can have some research topic choosing from policy or societal problems. Look at the community assessment need, then you choose your research topic based on that. So it all requires you to read journals, read articles, read extensively, and pay attention for recommendation for further research process. So there are characteristics of a good topic. A good topic is not just a topic. There are characteristics that you must say this is a good topic. First of all, it must be very clear, easy to understand, and not vague. So another one is must be focused. Your research topic must be focused. You must address a specific problem in a population and location. Also, it must be researchable because data can realistically be collected. You cannot just choose a topic that you don't have data or you don't have anywhere to collect your data. So your research topic, one of the characteristics must be that it must be relevant and must contribute to the body of knowledge. It must contribute to the practice that you are in. And also it must be visible, achievable within a time frame, within your budget, and also within your skills that you have. And also don't forget, it must be ethically sound and policy related. These are the characteristics of a good research topic. We can have some criteria for choosing this particular topic. We have the TFL criteria, the technicalities, the financial, and the legal implications of so we have criteria for choosing your research topic. We have the TFL criteria, then another one is the FRED criteria. So the TFL criteria has to be the T there is technical, the visibility of that, then the interest that you have in that particular topic, and also look at the financial implication, the resources that you have, the novelty, the newness of that particular topic, then the ethics and its relevance to policy. This is the one step you can actually use to choose your topic. Another one is the friend framework. Friends. The name is friends. FRIENDS. Friends is an acronym for visible, the F, the R is the relevance, the I is the interest that you have, the E is the ethical, then you narrow your topic down, then based on your discipline. and then your supervisor. Don't forget, supervisor here is very important. Because supervisor can actually push you up, and supervisor can actually bring you down. So supervisor can actually delay your work. So supervisor can actually push your work higher than you expect. So supervisor implication here is very important. So this is an example of a good topic. If you can have this, remember we have you think deeply, conceptualize it, strip it down to a specific problem, then you choose your topic. This particular slide you are seeing here is an example of a good topic. But we have determinant of utilization of antenatal care services among pregnant women attending primary health care facilities, primarily in Uyo, Bible State. This is a good topic. So here we'll tell you why it is a good topic. Some people can have the topic that follow as readiness of primary care facilities for breast cancer screening in a Bible State. This also is a good topic. So why are they good topics? Because it is related to the community. Also, it clearly defines the population, women of childbearing age or pregnant women. It defines the settings, the area, the study area, the Bible dates, and also the variables that you have there. You can actually measure it, and then it is visible within the stated period. This particular topic, if you done properly, can actually influence policies and practices. It's very important. So you have to look for a way to turn your problems into a research question. It's very important, but at the end of the day, you must answer your research question. What is actually the research question? We'll look at it as we proceed. So we have to define what the problem is. Then you will narrow down the scope. Then make sure that you look for a visibility assessment. How visible is what you want to do? How visible is it? Is it relevant to the society? Is it relevant to the policy? Is it relevant? Can it influence? Can it actually solve community problems? These are the things you have to turn your problems that you have into a researchable question. So those are the things that we are looking at. So what is then is a research question? Research question is a specific focus and answerable question that actually guides your study. It emerges from a research problem. The problem that you identified, you can create a research problem, a research question based on the problem that you identified. So it is what your study seeks to find out. For example, if your research problem is the why, the study is the why, the research question is what specifically am I trying to answer? That is what are the questions look at. And research questions can be descriptive, it can be comparative, it can be correlational, it can be exploratory, it can also be action-based. If you look at, for example, if your research question is descriptive, you can actually describe the characteristics in terms of time, place, and person. To describe the characteristics, describe the patterns, also describe the property of the subject. But if you are comparing, if your research questions is to compare, you can also identify similarities and differences between the two groups in entity that you have. If your research question is action-based, you can also find out the practical solutions, also the intervention or the improvement of this research to the community. Those are the 8 types of research questions you can also have. It can be descriptive, it can be comparative, it can be explanatory, it can also be evaluative. These are the things you can actually do while doing your research questions. So research question can be strong. You can also have a weak research question. It's very important to know this. You can have a weak research question. Example is, what are the factors affecting antenatal care? It's very vague. It doesn't give you that setting. It doesn't give you that population, so to say. So, but you can also have a strong research question. For example, which socio demographic and health factors are associated with antenatal care utilization among pregnant women attending PSCs in Uyo? This is very clear. It's very clear because it is community-based and also it states the population that you want to study. Also set the setting of the Uyo government as a certified research Nigeria. So that is the strong research question. Another way you can also look at it is next one. Another way you can also look at it is you look at a research based on so network. So research question, as I mentioned, it can be weak. You can also have a weak research question, which is called the M, and also you can also have a strong research question. Avoid some vague statements. It is very important to avoid them. Avoid some vague statements. You can make use of the interrogative words like to what extent, which is, or what is the situation between these, how do these influence this. It's very important to make use of the interrogative words when you are doing a research question. So, for example, we have which factors are associated with immunization dropout among 12 to 13, 3 months in Uyo local government. This is a good interrogative word for a research question. It's very important you know this. Very important. So after you must have set out your research question, it's very important to mention the method you are going to use. The methodology in carrying out this process is very important. How are you going to do the methodology matters a lot. So you have to look out for your research design. How are you going to bring out your research design is very important. Is it a qualitative study? Is it a quantitative study? Or is it a mixed method approach that you are going to use? When you must have done that, you have to look for a way to collect your data. Which tools are you going to use for your data collection? Is it a survey? Is it an interview? And then also, when you must have collected your data and sorted out, as we previously mentioned, you have to look for a way to analyze your data, either any of the methods, the SPSS method, or any of the statistical techniques that you may use, and then you do your sampling very well, then consider your ethical implications. So the first thing here you're going to look at is your research study design. It's very important because it's a framework that actually refers to the plan and structure of your study. It outlines how your data will be collected and analyzed to answer that your research question that you have earlier. So the study population here is very important because it consists of the group of people that you want to study. If you have a total number of people you want to study, that's what we call population. But you can bring out a section of it that we call a sample. So a section of the population is a sample, but the totality of that population you want to study, for example, University of Oyo Teaching Hospital, that is the population. For example, if you are using University of Oyo Teaching Hospital for your study, but you have to stream it down to a unit that you actually want to get the data. That unit you are come out from the population is a sample. For example, the ORG unit, the accident and emergency unit. That is a sample of what you want to study. So that is what a research study design can also help you to bring out. So there are criteria for choosing your study design. It's very important to know this because first of all, you must define your research question. Is it a descriptive? Is it analytical? Is it collaborational? Is it different? They are mentioned in different areas. Is it action based? Then, when you must have defined your research question, the next thing is to state your objective. State your specific objective. It's very important because your specific objective has to be very smart. Smart is an acronym, but now we have already added some other items to smarter now. This smarter approach for study objective. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. It could be ethical and then will also be researchable. So smarter approach is what we use nowadays. So when you must have done your specific objective, you assess the resources that you have. What is the resources that you have? Can your resources take you to finish the program? You must take time, use the Gantt chart. For a way to look at the randomization, the feasibility of randomization. It's very important you consider the ethical implication when you are choosing your study design. It's very important. Then also look for a way to evaluate the population and outcomes. What population are you dealing with? The target population, also the frequency of outcome. These are the characteristics that enable you to choose your study design if you are doing a quantitative study and also if you are doing a qualitative study or if you are doing a mixed method study. These are the few characteristics that actually help you in choosing your study design. Then, you have to consider evidence. If you are looking for a strong evidence, look at the base. Look at the base of the pyramid. The base has to do with that increasing order of strength. Look at the tips. You have the systematic review at the tips and meta-analysis. That's where the evidence actually lies. The strongest evidence is at the tip of the pyramid, where you have the systematic review, also have the randomized control trial. So if you are looking at evidence, how do I put it, strength of evidence, you look at the tip of the pyramid. If you can conduct a systematic review, it's very important. Also, you can do a randomized control trial, is very important. So the evidences increases from the base down to the tip. Some of us probably in our work we're doing a cross-sectional study. Probably you cannot actually get much evidence because cross-sectional study is like a snapshot study. So if you want to have an increasing evidence or strength of evidence, you can also do a systematic review or plus or minus a meta-analysis. This is where the evidences actually come from. So when you must have done that and choosing your research, your study design, the next thing is to get your data. Get your data. I mentioned that depending on your study design, it could be qualitative, it could be quantitative. You can do, if you are doing a quantitative study, probably you are looking for a way to bring out your structured questionnaire survey. But if your study is doing a qualitative study, you can do an interview, probably a key informal interview or focus group discussion. That then, if you are doing a randomized controlled trial, which actually be experiment, you can actually manipulate some variables under a control condition. That's the experiment that we have there. So depending on what your study design is, that's what will warrant the type of data you are going to get and how you are going to collect the method you are going to collect that data. We have primary data where we collect from the fields. Then we also have a secondary data where we have to review data, review previous work that has been done. If you are reviewing a hospital register, that is a secondary data. If you are reviewing policy brief of government, that is a secondary sort of data. Then if you are doing any other data that probably somebody must have included, for example, in the Ministry of Health, we have a DSIS tool where you have database of all the indicators, all the programs there. So you are doing a secondary data review. So it depends on the study design that you have. Make use of any method you want to do and collect to analyze your data. Probably depending on the data, remember you have to analyze it statistically based on the numerical data you have. You also put them in tables and graphs and charts and also put them in where you can actually measure the objective. If it is a qualitative data, you have to put it in a word or narrative or themes or quotation depending on what how you want it to be done. So qualitative results are also non-numerical and also you can put it in words, you can also put it in theme, depending on how you can put your respondent verbatim as it is. But for the quantitative results, you can make it in statistical form where you have to bring in the frequency and the percentages and also bring in the descriptive statistics, the mean, the media, and the mode, and then put it there and the correlation, probably the relation, and then you can test the hypothesis. This is how you can present your quantitative results. It can be presented in the form of tables, also can be presented in the form of charts, can also be presented in the form of graphs, and also can be presented in the form of statistical summary that we have the mean, the media, and the mode and the correlations. But for the quantitative results, you can also have your finding presented in the form of participant quotation. You can quote the participant. If you are doing a focus group discussion, you can actually quote and transcribe all your message as it is from your participant. Or you can also put it in the form of narrative. It's very important. You can narrate it the way it is. You can narrate it also put it in the form of theme and something. This is how you can present your data. So pictorially, you can also make it look better. If you are getting a qualitative data and you want to make it a qualitative, put it in a qualitative result, you can put it in a pictorial presentation, pictures. It is very important because it enhances good understanding. Also make this complex relationship easier for us to grasp. But remember, this is without limitation because when you put it in a pictorial form, you must still explain it narratively. This is the advantage of putting your qualitative result in a pictorial presentation. You can, apart from pictorial presentation, you can also put your qualitative result in a conceptual framework using themes. Using themes. You can also put it in a diagram using a flow chart, using a word cloud that can also show how frequently your work is occurring. These are the methods you can actually put your quantitative and your qualitative result. But if you are doing a mixed method approach, remember, you cast your mind back to the study design. It could be qualitative, it could be quantitative, and also it could be a mixed method. So if you are doing a mixed method study, the structure is actually different. We have different form of mixed methods. You have the convergent parallel design, where you have to do both at the same time, simultaneously. Then we have the explanatory sequential design, where you have to do the quantitative first, then followed by the qualitative. And have the explanatory sequential design, where you have to do the qualitative, use the qualitative to explain the quantitative findings that you have. So this structure of a mixed method is very important, depending on what you do. But for newer researchers, we've added an embedded form of it to this. Embedded form of it, you have to keep one constant and do the remaining one. So apart from these three structures of mixed method that we have, the convergent parallel design, the explanatory sequential design, the exploratory sequential design, you also have an embedded design into this. That's the newest form of a mixed method design that we have. So when you must have done your analysis and present your result, it's better you discuss your findings. Discussion of findings is very important because you have to reiterate your research questions and objectives, and probably your hypothesis. Then this will also remind the reader that what you are discussing is the findings. Then it's important that you summarize your major findings. You might have brought out after writing the result, but the major findings must be summarized in the discussion section. It's very important. Then use the appropriate language while doing this. Avoid some jargons while writing your discussion section. For example, you can say most findings are these, majority of these are these, more than half of these are these. So you must use standard language while writing your discussion section. Is very important. So let your statement clearly answer your research question. That is the key fact in discussion. So discussion must flow in a systematic order. It's very important. You must give a brief recap of your social demographics at the beginning. Then you have to follow your specific objectives to mention your findings in the discussion section. It's very important. Very, very important. So you interpret your findings in prose. It's very important to do that. So you must mention your implication of your findings, your discussion section. This is where you actually add your own words. You can add your own words here, what you think you have been done based on the findings that you have. So the implication to the policymakers, the implication to the opinion leaders, the implications to whoever you want to recommend. This is where you actually bring it in the discussion section. Then at the tail end of that discussion, you must bring in your limitations. So what are actually your limitations and the way you can actually summarize your limitations, the way you can actually circumvent your limitation must be brought at the tail end of your discussion session. It's very important. So the first part of the conclusion is basically you state what your reader wants to see. It's very important. A summary of what you want to. So the first piece you have to answer your research question in a concise explanation. This is the summary session must be as brief as possible. This is not the same as abstract. We'll look at it as we proceed. So once you have discussed your findings and then bring out your discussion and then conclusion, the next is to bring out an actionable recommendation based on your findings. It's not based on what you think should be done. The recommendation is based on the findings of your work, the findings of your study, not what you think should be included. Therefore, it must be evidence-based, it must be specific, you must itemize it in Arabic numerals, and also it must be visible and practical. And also, you must also direct your recommendation to the implementer, for example, the government, the institution, the community leaders, the individual. It must be directed at them and it must be actionable. And then it must include future or further research based on your limitation and your scope that you have. Those are the things that we actually have in the recommendation section. When you must have done with your work completely, it is there for you to state your abstract. Abstract is very important. Abstract is a concise summary of what your work was. It is the first section that we as a researcher want to see. is very important. You will have to summarize the entire work in an abstract format, then demonstrate your clarity and also demonstrate your rigor. There are key facts about abstract. There are components of an abstract. Abstract will be structured. It will also be unstructured. You have, for example, the slide you are seeing here is a structured abstract that have components. Structure is that we have a background, so you have to state your background, you have to state the method and the basic result that you got in. Then state your conclusion and recommendation. Then don't forget keywords. Keyword is derived from your topic. So, but the unstructured abstract is just write as it is. You need to segment it: background, result section, conclusion, and conclusion. So these are the two areas you can actually write your abstract: the structured form and the unstructured form. This is a Gantt chart. Gantt chart will put you in line. You know that distractors along the line when you are conducting your research. As an innovator, you have to make use of the Gantt chart. It's very important because it lists against time the tasks that you are required to plan, to execute, to analyze, and also report. It is very important to bring out your Gantt chart, then do your research as it is. So, as a young researcher, what are our roles? We have our role to play. We have our role to play. As I mentioned, the characteristics of a researcher. So we must be innovative. It's very important. We must be creative, and then we must make use of our technology. It's very important to make use of it because most of the results that you have, even in qualitative and quantitative components, you must put them in statistical format, and you must be able to analyze that result so that you convey a message to people that are not in that field to actually understand what you want to do. So you must brand yourself for future leadership positions. So those are the roles that we have as a young researcher. So there are few things that can actually help us to do that. You have to start early, as I mentioned earlier. You start early, you choose your practical relevant topic. Your topic actually matters. Use the framework to choose your topic or the other framework I mentioned earlier. Then you must have a choice of your supervisor, your mentor is very important. Engage your supervisor and your mentor consistently. This is what will help you as a participant getting your work done and on time. Then aim to finish on time and for publication. So teamwork matters. Teamwork matters. It's important to have a teamwork. Together, everyone achieve more. That's the meaning of team. Teamwork. Together, everyone achieve more. So if you are working as a team, you can achieve more because alone you can do so little. If you are doing alone, you can do so little. But together, you can do much. You can do much. You can actually collaborate with your colleagues that have the same like mind. Collaborate with your colleagues. Teamwork actually divides your work into smaller units that will achieve success. So supervisors' mentorship in research is very important because their role cannot be overemphasized. You must have a role and a mentor or your supervisor in your work. Supervisor can actually push you higher and your supervisor can actually push you lower. So supervisor matters a lot. So you must have, it will give you that career guidance. For example, I have a good supervisor in my part 2 work. I was able to finish my part 4 within 7 years. While some of my colleagues are still there, that they could not have that leverage of having a good supervisor. So supervisor can actually, so if I remember when I had a challenge with validation of my tools from the African College of Physicians, it was my supervisor that actually called the chief examiner to inform him that this candidate has done this. Otherwise, they were hammering that I didn't do the validation of my tools, but they wanted to keep my work for like 4-6 months in the college. But my supervisor took it upon herself, called the chief examiner, informed him that this person has done this. That is where my work was moving from one table to another at the speed of light. So the supervisor can actually guide you in your career. The supervisor can also guide you in networking opportunities like this. The SEED program is a networking opportunity that you can actually leverage on it and then move forward. Then it builds your capacity. Capacity building is very important because if you have capacity building, you can move basis. It's very important. You can actually make your decision and stand by it, own it. Then the issue of team management is very important. You also mentioned what I mentioned earlier. So grant writing is very important because your supervisor can actually link you to having a site where you can actually have some strategies to write and win grants. I am in the Ministry of Health as Deputy Director now because of my supervisor. But he actually recommended me, oh, this person can actually do this, can actually do that. The ministry take it upon itself to probably make me there. So the choice of grants writing is very important. I wrote grants for so many companies. I write grants for so many individuals. So I know what actually means to win grants. Because if you win grants, most of the new resources that we have in funding research will be a thing of the past. So grant writing is very important. Writing a compelling proposal with clear objective and budget planning for grants is very important. But remember all these things also that we mentioned that without challenges, you have to face the challenges of limited funding. You have to expect the challenges of time constraints. Also have to face the challenges of publication pressure. For those of us that are lecturers, those of us that are into academics, publication is very important because you have to move forward. If you don't publish, how will you share your knowledge with others? So publication pressure are the key challenges that we have, and then alongside with the resource limitation, since we are in the resource constraint environment. So you can also overcome these challenges if it's without overcoming challenges. You can overcome these challenges by having a mentorship, as I mentioned. Your supervisor can push you up. You can collaborate with others that have the same line mindset like you. Can put a collaboration, you can publish in collaboration with other individuals that have been in that area for long. For example, now I have like 12 publications with others outside the individual one I did. So collaboration can actually push you higher. Then collaboration can actually make you to seek grants. You can win grants along with others, win grants, then work with it, then manage your time properly. That so publication. Once you have done that and your result is good to go, you can choose a journal to publish your work. Choose a good journal to publish your work. Peer review process is very important. That choose a Scopus index journal is very important to publish because most of the Nigerian universities now they value most of those Scopus publications. It's very important to do that. These are things. So when you have done all these things, it's better that you think before you write. The message is think clearly, have that conceptual thinking before you write. So conceptualization is foundational. Conceptualization is foundational. Think deeply and then write it clearly and then make it fly. So impact is achievable with structure. Impact is achievable with structure. So the take-home message here is innovation can solve problems. Collaboration is very essential. You have to collaborate with colleagues, with individuals, with like minds. Then don't forget the ethics of doing this. The ethics of doing this, the beneficence, the non-efficiency, the ethical implications of research is very important. So persistence, because we are without challenges. Persistence in the midst of challenges can lead you to success. It's important to have this take-home message that innovation can only solve problems. Collaboration is very essential while doing your study, and also ethics matters. Then persistence gives you that success that you desire. So we can have a few interactions before we end the session. What actually inspires innovation? As I mentioned earlier, we had this should have been an interactive session. What actually inspires innovation? Let me just hear your opinion before we just close the session.
What inspires innovation?
Social problems. Life ends starts. So innovation will be necessary once you are spotting the social problem. So the need to solving that problem will call for critical thinking and what you say we are necessary. So social problems.
So how will we now identify social problems? Mention the issue of community visibility, community assessment. You must look at the environment and know the challenge that we have. For example, if you are an adolescent in secondary school, look at the adolescent sexual abuse. It's a problem. It's a key problem. COVID-19 that came up that time. It's a problem. Monkeypox, if you are in the academic health unit, it's a problem. To look at what is around your environment. That is where you can identify. Then when you sit down and think critically about that, that's where you can bring out problems. So this is the others. Let me see. Let me hear from others.
What inspires innovation? You cannot be against me. What inspires innovation? Hunger.
Except for that. Except for that.
So I said hunger.
Yeah.
I once saw a movie where they said, hunger will make you discover your talent. So I'm responding on a broader, context, not limited to academics.
Good.
Hunger will make you discover what ordinarily you wouldn't discover. If you are hungry and it will make you to think. And if you are not, criminally minded, in fact, even that one itself is an innovation. Hunger will make you wake up in the morning and see things that you can do to give you money so that you can go to school the next day. So that is innovation. That is just so it's not really about yes.
Okay, question is inspired by how things were formerly done, then making it better to be done in a better way.
Okay, so how was before? And how do you want to make it work this time around? If you're happy. If you're happy. If you say how things were not done, and this is where you want to be as innovation, that's a gap analysis. In between that, there are contents between it. So what are the content that was done before? This is how it normally be. Please go ahead. Recommendation. This is a gap in this particular study. You can bring out your own methodology and do it better, differently. You see, achieve the result that you want. That's the innovation that you were trying to bring out. Clap for her too. So, hey, what's your own? What inspires innovation?
Okay, two things that comes to mind. One, poverty. Number two, is from my own perspective, trauma. Some two people can go through the same trauma, and one person comes out better, and the other person comes out worse. And the person that comes out better can use that experience and that growth to innovate maybe a product or maybe healing sessions and coaching sessions to help other people who have gone through that path and are able to come out successfully. And then the person can innovate several products around. Could be an app, could be anything that will help the person, others, move away from that problem. Next one is poverty. I think in Africa, what is even helping most of us innovate is poverty. When you know where you are coming from and you are even scared of going back there. Though it has made some people feel, right?
So it will be in a positive way, it will also be in a negative way.
So poverty can seriously, especially in Africa, cause people to start thinking outside the box to be able to live where they are to where they ought to be. Maybe in terms of, let's say, let me use a typical example. I was one of those people that believe that salary could actually help you.
Okay.
Until I started earning it. Of course, every typical Nigerian that went to school, finish school, get a job and get paid, you are okay. But being a person that I've always thought that life can be better. Then I thought that it would be under salary. But after I grew up, I started earning. I find that I earned for 5-7 years and nothing, no savings. So I had to start, and that's why I got into tech, I think 3 or 4 years ago, and it helped me do a lot of things that I could not do originally.
All right, let's just turn our attention to the online person. Tulu, your hand is up, please. You can unmute your mic and Tulu Lope. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, I would like to take my own personal perspective. What's led to my own experience, and the experience is in twofold: personal experience and also from those I've observed around me. So at the point I I started experiencing a bit of depression about what was going on around. So in the long run, I was able to carve it into a research topic and modify it. Then another aspect is this inquisitiveness. I'm just tired in my field now. We do the same thing almost the same way over the years. So I became inquisitive. I want to do it in a new way. And the social impact, I'm social impact driven. So these are the motivations for me, or I would say what inspires my own style of innovation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a nice one. That's a nice one. Let's call our to the other side. Professor.
Okay.
Professor, please. Pictures. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, for me, what
This is
inspires
that's all I can hear
innovation?
you.
Okay, for me, there are two things that have inspired me. I'm going to speak of personal experience as a field researcher. Number one is anomaly in data. For instance, when I was looking watch policy during stakeholder meetings, I discovered that every time we call for watch stakeholder, I was always in when I'm collecting my data, only male, only male, only male. So at some point, I had to ask, is it that we do not have any female stakeholder, no female wash worker, no female wash expert in the state? And that was when I was doing my MSc. And that was when the innovation came to carry out the research on gender disparity in the wash sector value. That was the innovation. So I pressed on, and in fact, there was no female member in all the wash and professional associations in the state. That is because there was none. And I had to use I was using purposive sampling. I had to use snowball to be able to reach just one woman in the state who was selling, yes, selling and wash. And social media into the wash policy of the state. That's one. The second one is evidence from communities and conversation with community members. When you go to communities to collect data, sometimes what you went to collect will now reveal another thing that will interest you to go in, leading to evidence-based research. That's
It's like
Leslie, you answer, how can you say impact like?
Okay, that's what I will ask.
Yeah, answer that one.
I want
He talked and enter community and society as one.
Okay, how research can impact society. Okay, thank you. Certainly, research has a holistic impact on society. In fact, the impact of research on society cannot be overemphasized because it rises above the microprisms of just policies to even affecting the future of unborn children. I must say that. Now, if we must use medical research as an example, we can always say that most of the medications that are produced either within or without the country are outputs of medical researchers. Yes. By that way, it saves lives. Another aspect is also policy formulation. There are so many researchers that have informed policies, either social or educational or even economic policies. So when we talk about the impact of research on society,
it's widespread. It covers the entirety of the human structure, our social organization, and even the economic and political policies of our society.
Media wants to come into our head. You shall say it.
This is, don't quote me now, for lack of the right knowledge, maybe say for as an antibiotic, and somehow you're proposing this drug by add this to this to attend to malaria, for instance. So you see that basically now, and that's where the issue of innovation now comes in. Because you're innovating on an existing reality, understanding that maybe the process where which a drug will go through before it gets approval is too long. We have a problem at hand, we need to solve it. So for me, because of research, it opens us up even to knowing what was not the original plan for which something was done. Like that's thing to agree to what people had shared.
Someone has. Okay, yes, okay.
No,
Okay, give me the answer. Give me a friend. You are excuse me. I'm
I like it.
Ladies, after
Okay, what I actually wanted to the question is how can the research impact society? I believe this effective, like follow to the research.
yeah,
Someone carried us in research
Nigeria.
and discovered the gap and then proposed for funding to close that gap. And we are making.
Thank you.
Just want to share my idea. Please permit me to return a little back to what inspires innovation. Then I move to how can research impact our society. When you were sharing, I had a conversation with um, a friend in Kenya this morning, and she was just sharing her experience how they had blackouts in Kenya last time, and what comes to our mind was the Nigerian situation because she was in Nigeria with us. So she was saying that there's this collaboration between Nigeria and the metro state. And that moves to further conversation of how Kenya has developed over the years. And we had an instance of the movement of some part of United Nations headquarters to Kenya. And while we were discussing, we got to the motive of that movement. And The purpose of that movement is to reduce operational costs. So before they could arrive at that point, I believe they must have done their findings, look for a safe place, and also a location that will reduce costs. You understand? So one of the things that I think inspires innovation is operational cost. Now that is in administration or social science. We also look at that a lot in computer science, where we look at the time complexity and space complexity. So when you are going through some experiences in life and you want to reduce the cost or implication of those experiences, most times it leads to research and innovation. So that's my perspective of what inspires innovation and how can research impact the society. When I teach in computer science, I have to tell my students that the backbone of computer science research is first miniaturing and what we call optimization. That's all that computer science is all about. Before we used to have computer that fills the entire room, but now we are seeing computer as small as this. And now I share with Dr. Bianca some days ago of Elon Musk's recent development where you don't even need to touch your phone. Yes, as you are thinking, it is responding to you. You understand? So the impact of that in our society is that it makes life easy. Research and innovation makes life easy and it brings about civilization. Thank you.
Nice one. Nice one. Nice one. The era of AI is here with us.
Earlier we come to terms with the fact that I have come to stay. Be better for us.
Yeah.
We've had
Personally, I've had my friends that say, I hate AI. When me and my friend were talking here, we just laugh because
AI is a product of innovation. Completely. AI is a product of innovation. And we've all seen how it has impacted the society. Although it has its good side and it has its downside.
so now talk about the bad side of it. That's number 3 now. What are the barriers to innovation? How can you circumvent the barriers?
Okay, so let's teleport our friends to the United States. I don't know who else have seen the news or who else heard of the news that they are now trying to force their students to go back to read. Like they want to keep them away from that screen because we know here is 1/10 of what those what's 1/10? 1/100 of what those people know of what those people know. You think you know? I think you know ChatGPT. Send your work to someone abroad, Europe or US, and you see a child use this same tool that we use, and they have the advanced version of this tool. So it makes it easier for them. The assignment is done at a click. Those days that you need to put 2, 3, 4 textbooks. This one like this. So they don't read. All they know is because they are. I mean, you cannot use AI without being brilliant and smart. So they have the prompt already. They know how to think. So they just prompt and it gives it back to them. But the disadvantage of that is that as a person, you are not helping yourself. You are how do I put it now? You are outsourcing your thinking abilities. You are outsourcing some of your capacities to AI for AI to do your own work for you. So the downside of it is this: that what we can do or what we should have done as people, we are now pushing it completely, myself inclusive. We're now pushing it completely to this guy, and it's affecting a whole lot of the next generation. If we are not careful, will not even want to read. They will not even want to. We have seen different AIs now. I learned of one called question AI or when I answer AI. Just snap your question like this, and
Be very, it's not breaking news. Be very careful. It's not breaking news. When you see a check now, they go as far as trying to just all they know do it. They just put the question like this and then it scans and then everything is out. So please, this is the downside of it. Because and when you want to read those things, you will know that it's correct. So you can't really fail the students, even when you know that this is AI generated. Even when you know, we write with AI, so we know when you submit an article that is AI generated, I'll just tell you, no problem, well done. Welcome to the club. We've done well. This is our Oga from the other side. So that's just the downside of it, sir. And how to save that is for schools to be very, very serious with their policies. How do I know? From secondary schools, we've lost the reading culture. That's the truth. We've lost the reading culture. A child cannot and then let the universities also make it as a matter of policy that you are not permitted to come to exam hall with any gadgets. It's out of bounds. So when you have got the exams is over for you. Your phone, your smartwatch, your earpod, anything is not supposed to be with you in that exam hall because the slightest opportunity you give to them, the exam is not. Yeah, that's one.
We always put so much emphasis on some summative assessments. That is another problem.
So answer that C part.
We always place so much emphasis on summative assessment. That is even a problem with us as academics. You will come into for this particular course, it is over 100%, and you don't even do CA. How many of us take CA in our courses?
Oh.
No, it's not true.
In my school, no, CA in my school now compulsory to use some. There's a week for it.
Now,
there's a week for it that you have to do CA.
Now that you are doing CA, what type of CA are you doing? We still do CA as if it's a summative assessment. That is why you have a time in your timetable for CA. It is wrong. CA is formative assessment. You do it as you go. But now we have schools that have it on the school timetable. Yeah. CA is between this. We are still treating it as an exam. It is called formative. Formative in the sense that I can have like 10 for my own unit.
Yeah, I decide to use one.
When I'm in the classroom, I am talking, I am throwing out impromptu quizzes. Not even, that is why it is CA. If you don't come there, you have missed it. You're not doing it to test people. So while we talk about artificial intelligence, we should also talk to ourselves. We have become in your asking students to define what is, describe. That is nonsense. I don't do that. Ask synthesis questions. There is something called competency-based assessment. If you like, use your smartphone. You cannot cheat in my class. It is the truth. Ask them. I don't ask people to leave the hall because of phone. My dear, you will read the question. You will know that even the AI does not know the example I have given you. It has to come from you. And there's another thing. I know we're short of time. There's another thing. You don't know how to prompt. Why are you using it? And then you pretend. We pretend, especially our gas, apart from this that is already exposed to tech. Our gas pretend that there's nothing like artificial intelligence because they are afraid of changing their teaching notes. I come into the class
bring it in
and
fact.
I tell you,
I'm keeping
sir,
it.
I do it in my classroom. I come into the classroom and I give you an assignment. In that class, I ask this side, use ChatGPT. This side, use this. Let us brainstorm. When students know that you are not hiding the fact that there is something called AI, they pick up.
Hold on.
Yes. Oh.
Thank
Thank you so much. That is a perfect question. I wasn't expecting it. Let us assume you want to say, define,
Define your week.
define weak, or define beauty, for example. You don't need to say define beauty. When you say define beauty, it means you have also given them a definition in the classroom and you expect them to call it. Don't do that. You already know what beauty is. Beauty is somebody that is fine. Let's just put it at that. Today, 21st of so and so day, you leave your house, you walk 5 minutes from your street to your left, and you meet this lady who is this. Explain what you have seen. ChatGPT will not explain it for you. Anything that ChatGPT gives you, even if there is copying it, don't say you don't fail.
But ChatGPT did not see that.
Your brain has to work. And let me give you another shocker. Even if you scan it and GPT or whatever tool gives you that answer, my sister, that student will read that answer before writing it out. Do you believe me? That student will read, but there are questions you ask, find beauty. Anything they will just copy it out for you because they know that is the definition. But if you give synthesis questions, that is called application or competency-based questions, which is mostly with medical students that do competency based. If you don't know, you don't know. So that is what it is.
Yes.
Please don't academics. Let us speak.
Personally, I don't tell them define.
Let's say define.
I just do a question.
I'll tell you. The truth is, it's everything that old man. Sorry, let me just sorry. Excuse me, I think. In my third 400 level, I had a lecturer that came and said, "Bring your textbook." She called it open book test.
That's what they're doing.
Bring your textbook.
Yes.
Say, bring all the textbook that you can bring. Open it. Keep. Open the textbook and keep. She now read out a question. Sir, you flip that textbook from beginning to the end. The answer is actually there. But then, if you didn't read that textbook, you can't even know the page to go and then pick what and apply to what she's asking you. Sir, we open textbook from beginning to the end. You know go fit answer, but your textbook is with you. Your phone is with you. She gave the question when and sat somewhere. She didn't even explain herself. No, that day she didn't bring anybody to the left. She came alone. So that's what she
There was
said.
a day I had what I call argument-based teaching classes. I'm sorry, I'm an academic. Do you know that we're in the lab, and my HOD and 3 of our professors, they passed, and they were like, "What's happening inside this lab?" They came in, I was sitting at the podium, it was just me, and my students were arguing group by group by group. Do you know what they were arguing on? Perplexity, ChatGPT, and Elicit. I just threw a question out. Everybody will browse it. They were arguing in the course of that. See, we cannot throw away artificial intelligence. So sitting down to say it has made us lazy, it has done that. No, you don't want to grow. Bring it, let them know. You know this thing. But use your brain. That's just it.
That's the essence of having a positive and negative implications to
Your brain.
innovation. So most universities now, for example, let me give you a classical university. So MIVA, who are aware of it. If you are writing their doctor exam, you cannot cheat.
You cannot.
I have been a supervisor to most of them. I have been a supervisor to most of them. I had like 7 students for Uniport, 1,000 students for writing. For Uniport doesn't follow that same line. But the newer university now, like the University of Viva University, if they are writing their exams, that is next week or so. You cannot cheat, but it's doctor more download. There's an app more download it. You cannot just change. You cannot do anything on it. Yes.
So you don't need a CA, you can actually browse that. You know those ones. And you know how you normally score them. So you cannot fail them, you know it. You can't fail them. But once they use ChatGPT to write, most of us we know I cannot just give them high mark, cannot just give them low mark. Just put them in between. It's a school policy that is done that way. But those that actually use their brain, use their critical thinker, we know them. And we know how we normally score them too. You know, scoring is objective for us. You know, so what I'm saying is innovation has both positive way and negative way. Let me give someone else. Okay, yeah. Like I shared previously in these 2 weeks. I am of the opinion that any lecturer, let me speak from my constituency, who is anti-AI is either lying that is using it and lying, or is left behind. Now, but AI, like we have said, is an enabler. And AI is not the real substance. Because if you don't make yourself the real substance, you will see the real thing in AI and you'll be messed up. So, like he was saying, issues of generative AI. I'm not against AI, but there's also a time to use AI and time not to. George was here this morning, I was teaching, and I was citing an example, and I forgot the full meaning of the acronym had used. And I went to Google, and good enough, I was humble enough to say, I just Googled it, and you saw I think, will somebody help me? And none of you told me could have done this. Not knowing that when I switched to Google, it also, the screen also did share. It says, so that in itself, it's a problem. So I don't want to just dwell on the issue of academics because we're dealing with innovation, right? Now, for me, even within our circle, one of those barriers to innovation, she was sharing that part, which is something that affects basically all of us within that academic space. But when was the last time the system trained us? When was the last time the system trained us? So that in itself is a problem. Because for systems that work, they don't joke with training and retraining. Funny enough, even universities which are training institutions, what are budget for training? What's the budget for training? If 20% of what is stolen from the university is spent on training, our nation will make progress. So we have lecturers who are in 2026 living in 1980. So, my mind, the political will can also be a problem because you need to have a clear cut direction. With the medical side, I remember when Amechi was governor of Rivers State, he fought, tried to do some stuff with what is now Rivers State University Teaching Hospital. And there was interview, the media guys went there, and the nurse said they should come and teach us. And I like that nurse because she was humble enough. They should come and teach us on how to use, because sometimes our political class will just bring something for optics. In quotes, you have one school that this is a smart school. You just have to, there's nothing smart about it. So to my mind, yeah, individually we can go against this. Then for exams or for whatever, we're going to use AI has come to stay. But if AI, we must achieve the benefits we must get with this. We must go back to basics. Basic is key if we must make progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, just before I get back to those of us on site, CABC and Itora, take a note of you. I would like to ask those online, do you have any answers to this?